I'm Jason Klom, and this is Comedy on Vinyl. The year is 1959, the album An Evening Wasted with Tom Lehrer. The artist, of course, Tom Lehrer, and my guest this week is Paul Sabourin. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
So, in case those who don't know, words no work today. Paul, I'm so sorry. Tell people who you are, Paul, in case they're not familiar with your work.
I'm Paul Sabourin. I am, among many other things, one half of Paul and Storm, comedy music duo. I also, the resume is so weird and varied. I'm one of the founders of Joco Cruise, an annual comedy music cruise event. Mm-hmm. I am, along with Storm, we have written both words and music for the last couple seasons of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh, yeah. And general raconteurs and men about town, I guess.
Perfect. Is it weird that I want to, before we even get started into this, just ask you a little bit about if They Might Be Giants were an ice cream salesman? I'm getting the title slightly wrong, but it sticks in my head an awful lot.
It's I mean, what is there to say beyond the title? Mm-hmm. That both of us, both Storm and I are big They Might Be Giants fans, Storm especially. And we had, this is a song off of, God, which album is it? I can't remember if it's off of our album Do You Like Star Wars or Gumbo Pants. But either way, around the time we were working on whatever album it was, mm-hmm. we had gotten on a kick of, because like everyone, you know, the stereotype is imitations are, you know, a lame mm-hmm. thing to do as professional humorists.
Sure.
It's sort of one of the cheaper routes you can go, as mm-hmm. the stereotype goes, that I don't necessarily buy into anyway, but that's the rap it has. So we were riffing on that and trying to think what is sort of the weirdest angle you can take on an impression mm-hmm. To make it remotely interesting. Mm-hmm. And the first one of those we came up with, I believe, was if Bob Dylan were trapped at the bottom of a well, I believe mm-hmm. is the title of that. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of blossomed from there. Mm-hmm. We use any excuse we can to pull out our They Might Be Giants imitations.
Of course.
And so that came organically. I'm pretty sure the whole song grew around the phrase "Would you like a bomb pop?" Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. sung as John Linnell.
Of course.
Yeah, it's always fun origin stories like that. It amused the hell out of us. We're dumb, silly men.
It's all right. Liam Lynch did a whole album of songs in somebody else's style. Weird Al, don't know if anybody's ever heard of him. Has done a lot of style parodies.
He has, as have we. We did a whole series of Christmas songs in the style of They Might Be Giants as well. So it was not. I honestly can't remember which came first, mm-hmm. But either way, we had already done it, or we were going to do many more. Either way, so
have they heard these?
They have. Uh-huh. They were the diplomatic way that Flansburgh described it was they were warily flattered. I think they weren't exactly sure why it existed.
Yeah.
But once they got that we weren't completely making fun of them or being a-holes. Can we swear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So we're bringing assholes about it. Mm-hmm. They still were a little cautious as to the reason for its existence, but we're not upset that it existed.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, it would be a weird thing to find out somebody's tried to do this entire thing based on their rough idea of what you sound like. But then you have to remember they only know this because they've heard you a gazillion times and listened to you all the time on repeat. You know. My wife is I love They Might Be Giants, but my wife is the biggest fan that I know, and it's only because I've heard her play them a million times that I have something of an impression of them, because it's just always there. Yeah. So, Tom Lehrer. When did you first hear Tom Lehrer? You're a younger gentleman, Paul, so how did this enter your life?
So my parents were always supportive of both my brother and I, my older brother and I, played music. We're in band. I was in choir and musicals and such during school. I was your sort of typical band geek, band nerd, whatever your school's term was for it.
Sure.
They always encouraged music. There wasn't a lot of music played in our house. My parents, I grew up, now back in the 70s, there was this thing called vinyl, which you may know something about given the title of your podcast. My parents probably had about roughly a milk crate's worth of albums, somewhere, just a lot of sort of easy listening type stuff.
Sure.
Some Broadway cast albums, but a couple of the albums that were in there was Tom Lehrer's That Was the Year That Was and An Evening Wasted with Tom Lehrer. The interesting, not really connection per se that my family has is my mom at one point in college lived in Cambridge in, as it turns out, a house that Tom Lehrer used to at least live in, if not own. We're not exactly sure. It was at that point it was like a 6-bedroom house that was used for student housing, apartments kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they would still occasionally get postcards from people addressed to Tom Lehrer saying, "This is the last address I have for you. Wanted to get in touch," because he taught at Harvard and MIT and such.
Yeah.
In the 60s. And so there was a piano in the house that she liked to think was his, or at least he used to play on.
Of course.
And so she never met him or anything like that. But, she was a smart and funny person, and he was very popular, especially in the area around that time. He had sort of a mid-60s or slightly later 60s resurgence. So she was very familiar with his work, and we had those albums in our house. I was a precocious young child, which means I was a talkative little pain in the ass. And I enjoyed comedy, funny things, and these albums were some of the first comedy that I was exposed to with any regularity, and I played both those albums metaphorically until the grooves ran out.
Sure.
I played them a lot, and they really were genuinely formative, or helped form my eventual sense of humor and what I found funny and why I found things funny, because they were smart.
Sure.
They weren't lowest common denominator. They made you feel smart.
Oh yeah.
When you listened to them. All of which appealed to me as a little overeducated asshole. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed everything about these albums, and played them a whole lot I must have been, as long as I have memories, really, 5 or 6 years old, I think we were, playing these albums, not every day, obviously.
Sure.
I wasn't a weird obsessive, but, enough that at the time I knew all the words to all the songs.
Yeah.
On those
Did
albums.
you around what time would this have been?
This would have been mid-late 70s. I
Okay.
was born in 1970, so we're talking like 76 through 80,
Okay.
82, 83.
Okay, so you didn't have a Weird Al yet. So there's no Weird Al to be. So this is
I
your
think
only
proto.
example,
I didn't proto Weird Al start like when
I mean,
was
that's
Another One Rides the
true.
Bus?
That's a very good question. I should know this, and now
yeah,
I'm
but
gonna-
certainly like I enjoyed Weird Al, but I didn't at the time. I wasn't like going out and buying every album he put out. I was familiar with the hits, and I was happy when I heard, him come up on the radio. But for example, where I lived, we didn't have the Dr. Demento show wasn't
same.
syndicated there,
Right.
So it's not like I had a weekly fix on this sort of music. I mean, that said, I enjoyed it, but
Sure.
it wasn't to the same level of like owning the albums and obsessively learning all the lyrics.
So you are getting this kind of out of time exposure to comedy that is not of your generation, decidedly
Yes.
of your parents. Later on, does that seem weird to you, or is it just? I mean, I feel like that's typical of comedy people.
Yeah, I think you're certainly at least initially drawn to the things that you're exposed immediately to, especially back in those days. You had 3 main channels, a couple of UHF channels, and whatever your parents bought because you didn't have money to buy your own albums or 45s or anything. So yeah, I think that makes complete sense. That I don't feel it's weird at all. I tried to sort of do the same thing with my kids, and as as any parent learns, you only can be so successful at that, and I think that's the way it should be. Like, part of the point of humor, there can be a timeless factor to most really good humor, but that said, part of, I think, the inherent value of humor is that it changes over time. The styles change, the content changes, the various lines that you can and can't cross, and are crossed with increasing or decreasing regularity among its practitioners. So it's healthy and it's good, as far as I'm concerned, for kids to not just love everything that their parents did, and to in fact enjoy things that their parents don't like or can't understand. Just look at TikTok. Most people of my generation just can't. Don't even I struggle with the concept. It's not like I'm trying to be the hip dad who knows everything about TikTok.
Sure.
I try to at least understand what's happening there. There, or like YouTubers, like parents not understanding, why would a kid sit and watch a Let's Play video for 9 hours to watch somebody else play Minecraft?
Yeah. Yep.
But, that's the parent says, why would somebody want to do that? And then goes and sits down for 3 hours straight of This Old House on Sunday. It's just a different kind of Let's Play. It's just you're watching somebody else build a thing. So I don't remember exactly what my final point was to all that other than, I think it's entirely normal that my sense of humor grew out of my parents and what they exposed me to.
Can you think back to what your first comedic piece of music ever would have been?
It was probably there was probably, if you're not counting like, nursery rhymes or some song you heard. You mean the first one I wrote?
First one you wrote. Sorry, that should have. That was, I realized in the middle that was an unclear question.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, the first song I wrote actually was in the mid 90s. I joined an a cappella group called Da Vinci's Notebook. Which Storm, my music partner, was also a member of. And we were, that group was together 10, 12 years from the mid 90s through the early mid 2000s. And we started off just as like all of us came from different a cappella groups from our respective colleges and backgrounds. And it started out, as most college a cappella groups, as just like a cover group for a hobby group doing doo-wop songs and other groups' arrangements of pop songs and whatnot. One of the groups that we covered numerous songs of was a cappella group called the Bobs, who were a very popular group out of San Francisco at the time, who did original comedy and sort of combination of comedy and avant-garde songs. And those songs were really popular as we performed them, and we started to semi-consciously lean towards, this comedy thing seems to be what we're good at. And I just took a shot. I had an idea for a song that was kind of inspired by a couple of different country and Western comedy songs. I wrote a song called Liposuction, up-tempo comedy, country and Western themed song. And that was really honestly the first song I ever wrote. That must have been like 96-ish, something like that. So it's not like I grew up, trying to write a whole bunch of funny songs.
Sure.
I may have, there may have been a time in like junior high or high school we'd like re-lyric a thing or something like that.
Sure.
Not in any sort of like, let's go perform this capacity.
See, that start date for the band makes sense as to why I'm sure back when I was stealing MP3s as a youngster, that I know that I ran across Da Vinci's Notebook about it, or people claiming to be, I'm sure it was another one of those.
We had a couple of Napster and Kazaa viral hits back in those days. Our most famous song was a little sort of a novelty single called Enormous Penis that will probably go on my gravestone. Another song called Title of the Song, which was sort of made fun of boy bands that to this day college a cappella groups will cover. And that's, it's flattering and nice to see that. Those songs
it's a
like
weird
that still...
specific honor, but I mean, I wouldn't turn it down, and I don't even write music. I mean, I love the idea, though, that sans context, Enormous Penis will go on your gravestone. Do you think okay.
Yeah, and but for example, like that's one, Enormous Penis is a song that would show up sometimes attributed to Weird Al.
Of course. Of course.
And, that's just sort of the danger you run back in those wild, Wild West days. But what are you going to do? Again, there are far less flattering comparisons on our part, certainly not for Al's part.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I wrote this fake internet history book a few years ago, and in it there's an entire chapter that claims that he actually did write all those songs with filthy titles.
Yeah.
And just because it was just unavoidable. And also, the million different ways they misspelled Yankovic or Yankovic.
Yep. Yeah.
It was just one of these peculiarities of Napster times.
It's true.
So your exposure to Tom Lehrer starts as a very young man, which I think that's good timing. You sort of have to. Did you have knowledge of the musical references? Did you roughly know what he was?
Some.
Okay.
And that's actually, when I talk about this sort of thing, that's one of the joys to me of that kind of humor, is where you may not really know the exact reference, or you may not get a specific reference, but it makes you feel smart to understand that it is funny.
Yeah.
My usual comparison is like when you're watching Monty Python when you're in junior high, and they're making various references to early 70s British Parliament members and MPs and such, and you have no idea what they're talking about. You just trust that it's funny because so much of the context around it makes you think so, and you know that this person is funny, so you just sort of roll with it and figure eventually you might learn. It was a lot of that for me, especially with That Was the Year That Was, the album I didn't choose for this, but which you might as well have listed them as a double album for me, because I would just play them back and forth, and I had a hard time deciding which one I would choose. But That Was the Week That Was, That Was the Year That Was, as some of your people may know, especially if you've covered this album before, and I have to believe somebody has.
Yeah.
In the mid-'60s, Tom Lehrer was asked to do a number of songs for a show called That Was the Week That Was, and he would contribute these musical songs inspired by news items of the day. And so a lot of the songs on That Was the Week That Was are very specific to things happening that year, or things on people's mind, whether it was, the Cold War, or, National Brotherhood Week is based on an actual week in the mid-'60s, or Alma, which is a song about Alma Mahler-Werfel, this, woman who had a whole series of marriages to various arts luminaries, and he sort of takes a great pleasure in going over just this incredibly racy story of this woman who just went from husband to husband, and in retrospect, it's a rather problematic painting of this woman and her loyalties or lack thereof to various husbands. But again, it's making these references to Gustav Mahler and the Bauhaus and all these things that I had no clue as a 10-year-old in suburban Philadelphia what they were, but it's sort of, you hear these references and then eventually you come around to learning about them, and you broaden your horizon. Oh yeah, okay, this reference makes sense, and now I see why that's funny, and oh, isn't that interesting, and now I'll read about this guy, and I just sort of love that very slow process of discovery that happens over your life.
Do you think, is there any possibility that is probably why and where we learn rhythms from? Because if you don't know what's actually being said, essentially, you still are hearing rhythm. You're still hearing where the laughs are coming. You're still hearing pauses. Yeah. And eventually it just sort of just like stabs these holes in your brain, and you're like, oh no, this is how it works.
I always refer to that, well, not always, but one of the ways I refer to that is a thing has the shape of joke. Like, even if you don't know the punchline, you hear it's got the rhythms, you hear, oh, well, this is a punchline, and given all my context, this is a person that apparently the audience thinks is an idiot, or certainly doesn't fit in this particular situation, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you learn about structure that way by abstracting it, for sure.
It's like a Mike Huckabee tweet. He does seem to think like that's like
they absolutely right.
They should be jokes, but they're rarely actually function that way.
Andy Daly, the wonderful actor and comedian, did a routine once. I'm sure he's done it in multiple places. I've seen it, recording of it from when he did a Max Fun Con, which is an annual event they do from the Maximum Fun Radio Network, where he did. I can't remember the name of the comedian he's calling himself.
Yeah.
But he essentially does like 8 to 10 minutes of absolute meta shape of joke comedy. There's no actual content to it, but it's all just setups and like, yes, I was looking in the paper and I looked down and suddenly I'm like, whoa, what's going on with this guy? I mean, get out of here. What are you doing? I turn to my wife. I'm like, what is this guy doing? She says, I don't know what he's doing. It's just that for 8 minutes. And it is the most beautiful, brilliant breakdown of like comedy itself. I like still to this day, I marvel at the whole thing, especially where about 5-6 minutes in, he pulls a piece of paper out of his jacket and says, okay, what else have I got here?
I mean, it's that's just delivering on the idea that was all somehow written down. That is just, that's too good.
And it's so good. Please, if you're listening to this, go search Andy Daly, Max FunCon. You'll find it, and it is so worth your while. It's just brilliant.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that because it's been a while since I've heard that. I'm listening to that as soon as this is over. He's a man who I feel like is wasted on the comedy world at large. He's too good for most of the things he's in. Yeah. And he's great in all of them. But
there's the whole sort of comedian term is overused and kind of a sawhorse, but he absolutely, like, he's on such another level. Like the entire series of Review is just such, beyond just being flat out funny, is such an interesting analysis of that type of show and the editing tricks and manipulations that they do, and just it's so good, and it was too beautiful for this world.
Jerry O'Hearn, by the way, there we go. That's the character.
There, Jerry O'Hearn. Thank you.
In case it doesn't come up some other way. Holy cow. Is there, I always ask this question. I've learned to slowly adapt this question over the almost 10 years I've been doing this show, but Tom Lehrer's influence is there, but is there a place where you can nail it down to a specific thing you've done that is Lehrer-esque, or a Lehrer thing that is in your brain, or is it just a general patois? Patois is not the word I meant, but let's say patois.
I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean.
I was looking through trying to figure out
idiot.
Where there were, that's okay. Because I can't think of what the right word is either.
Patina.
Maybe pastiche.
Pistachio.
There it is. Sure, why not? Any kind of legume or nut. There's a couple direct pulls that I can think of that were maybe not consciously, I can steal this from Tom Lehrer, so much as I look back and go, oh yeah, totally pulled that from Tom Lehrer. There's a line from the Masochism Tango, which is a song on Evening Wasted with Tom Lehrer, which brings us back to the topic. At your command, before you here I stand, my heart is in my hand, and then he pauses and goes, ugh. In live performance, he's held out his hand, and there's a funny joke. And we have a song called Live that's sung from the point of view of a mad scientist who is trying to create a person that will love him. So it's this sort of forlorn love song. And there is one point, she hold it where I would the lyric, and I sing the song, I sing lead on the song live, and I would sing, she holds my heart like the way that I held hers. And when I perform that live, I hold my hand out and look down at it to hammer the joke home. That's a very direct pull.
Love it.
Let me look for it.
And it's not even the same joke. That's a solid.
But it's certainly out of the same joke basket.
Sure.
I am trying to. I know there was another one that I found, and I just need to.
By the way, I never get the answer in the positive here. It's always no. Generally, it's there, but
there
have examples. This is nice.
There's definitely a few little pulls like that. Not a specific example, but one of the things that Tom Lehrer does. I can't remember what the actual real name of it is, or if it even has one. I think of it in my head. I call it a broken rhyme, where you create a rhyme by placing the middle part of a word at the end of a line to rhyme with an actual word. The one I can think of, for example, off the top of my head, is the song "We Will All Go Together When We Go," where the first line. I'm bringing it up here on my computer. When you attend a funeral, it is sad to think that sooner or later, he actually pronounced it sooner or later. You think that sooner or later, those you think will do the same for you. Like, that tickled me so much as a kid, like, seeing, oh, look at that cool math trick he's doing.
Yeah.
Of sort of faking out a rhyme that way. I know we've done that kind of thing in our songs. I can't think of any immediate examples, which lessens the impact of my anecdote some. But that's like that sort of smartness and trickery, which is certainly not unique to him.
Sure.
But for me personally, like, that was a very important sort of songwriting lesson I learned early, is the way you can play with words like that.
It tickles the brain in a way, because you don't at all expect anybody would do this with words.
I was doing a little research before the show, excuse me, and reading some interviews with him and such, and he described, he started out, as most fans of his would know, he had a math degree, and ended up actually teaching math as well as political science and as well as musical theater over the years. But he was a very talented mathematician before and music was just sort of a side hobby for him, and he would write these little songs and he'd play them for friends, and eventually he played them in clubs in the Boston area and put out a recording and ended up touring for a while. But he described how mathematics tickles, again, we're using this term a lot, tickles the brain. It fires a lot of the same neurons as lyric writing, and there's a creativity to it. And lyric writing, he's always thought of, as he says, as a kind of puzzle that you're assembling, and that's a lot of the way that I have thought of lyric writing as well. I've always thought of songwriting in general, for me, is always sort of half jigsaw puzzle and half sculpting. You're putting little pieces together to try and make them fit properly, and also at the same time you are also kind of chipping away. There's a horse in there somewhere inside the marble, so to speak, and you're chipping away the parts that aren't the horse. And my own mental metaphor for songwriting pretty much falls along those lines. But that's that enjoyment of finding ways to snap these puzzle pieces together and finding pathways and connections. Has a sort of mathematics to it.
It's super common that musicians become comedians or have comedic bent. I think the most famous example that I like to give every time, Mel Brooks was a drummer. I think back during the war, he was a drummer before and during the war, and then learns rhythm, et cetera, et cetera. I do wonder then if there are more mathematicians out there or mathematically inclined folks who are comedians or musicians. I do wonder if there's a direct line between any of those folks.
It could be. I certainly would, I'd agree with Lehrer that there is a lot more art to some of the sciences such as math than you might expect, just like there's a lot more math than you might expect to a lot of the arts.
Art is, it can be lateral thinking, and without lateral thinking, you don't get a lot of solutions to problems. So it seems to me that I would. I'm very dumb, but what I'm saying is, I feel like the links are there. Maybe. I could be wrong. So we do not have to do a track by track of this, and we can talk about any track from any album. But do you have a particular favorite off of An Evening Wasted?
There's a lot of good ones. I don't know that I'd have a definite favorite. Certainly, I think I don't know that it was the first one that I heard, but on this album, on Evening Wasted, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park is such a classic. It's a very exemplary Tom Lehrer song for me in a lot of ways, in that it is unexpected. It's very, very funny. It's short.
Yeah.
Like he's when I realized in researching, he describes it as he wrote 37 songs over 20 years. I don't think he's counting any of the songs he wrote for like the Electric Company and such. I think his total oeuvre, to mispronounce that word, is something like 50 songs. He was not massively prolific, but boy, did he have a good hit rate. But Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, particularly, like, there is a certain darkness and cynicism, not depressive, like, not genuinely dark, but there's definitely a cynical eye. I can't think of any other proper words for it. I will as soon as we finish the podcast, which is my usual MO for a podcast. But
Sure.
for lack of a better word, there's a certain darkness to his writing that you don't find in a lot of contemporaries. Like one of the other albums we used to have, we had Stan Freberg. I think it was A Child's Garden of Stan Freberg. And we had an Alan Sherman album, My Son the Folk Singer, I think.
Yeah.
That was another one I played a lot of.
Yeah.
And Alan Sherman is equally brilliant in a lot of ways. Like I really, really love what he wrote, but he was coming at, his approach to comedy was both different musically and also his targets were different. Like he was exploring, in a lot of ways, he was exploring the world and the viewpoint of, a Jewish New Yorker in the 50s. Not that all his songs were about being Jewish, but they spoke to, a lot of them were, and a lot of them at least spoke from that viewpoint. And again, as like a mid-70s 10-year-old Gentile, I didn't really understand the context of a lot of the stuff that he was singing about.
Sure.
But somehow I knew that Sherman's song, The Ballad of Harry Lewis, to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Now I'm going to try and remember the exact lyric, which is one of my favorite lyrics of his. Harry Lewis perished in the service of his Lord. There's a second verse of Battle Hymn of the Republic. Harry Lewis perished in the service of his Lord. He was trampling through the warehouse where the drapes of Roth are stored.
That's right.
Which I should have set up. He works for a clothier called Irving Roth, as it's established in the first verse, which, again, a reference I would never have known as a child. I just took it on faith. But like that's such a beautiful little construction and piece of parody, and also sort of explicating the world of the song and of the characters within it. And it's just a brilliant little piece of parody writing to me.
That's a long fucking walk too.
It's a great walk, but it's such a beautiful payoff for that walk. But that, as I say, there's not a lot of darkness to him. He's just sort of, it's like take this song and spin it a little, 23% more Jewish.
Yeah.
Whereas Tom Lehrer, he's looking at things like the Cold War.
Yeah.
Especially a number of songs either about the Cold War or about, being in the military, or at the time he wrote it, a pretty recent Supreme Court ruling regarding pornography.
Oh yeah.
And talking about subjects that were not generally covered by certainly the musical comedians of the day. His first album, Songs by Tom Lehrer, a lot of radio stations, particularly in Massachusetts, wouldn't play it because of the content. He wasn't singing dirty things, but he was hinting at a lot of dirty things. They are surprisingly filthy for like songs written between 1955 and 1965. Like the entendres are barely double sometimes. But again, so smartly. He's saying such filthy things without using any bad words. Because he's a very smart writer. And all of which is to say, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park is such a black humor.
Yeah.
But done so cheerily and so smartly that you can't help but be just sort of carried along by it. And also, like, he's very underrated, I think, as a performer too. Like, I learned so much about timing from him. Like, his album had between song patter, which musical, Alan Sherman songs tended not to.
Right.
And just how the command he had of an audience and to be able to accompany himself and be that sort of free flowing. I love so much about it. So Poisoning Pigeons in the Park is certainly a prominent top one. The Elements is, of course, a classic, albeit not quote unquote funny per se, but just sort of a brilliant piece of assembly.
Sure. Maybe the original nerd humor. Who knows?
It could well be. The Masochism Tango, just because it's, when you're that young, you're like, hee singing about dirty things, was very amusing. I loved... Oedipus Rex is another one. It's like a surprisingly filthy song, considering. And you weren't, at least as in saying you, I mean you weren't sure exactly why you thought it was so funny when you're 10, and only passingly familiar with the story of Oedipus Rex, but
Right.
There's something untoward going on, and that certainly appealed to me. I also liked songs like Clementine, which is his repurposing of folk songs in different styles of the day.
Yeah.
That he does the first verse in the style of Cole Porter, and I knew nothing about Cole Porter in those days. And then he does a verse in the style of Mozart, does a verse in the style of sort of bebop, Charles Mingus style jazz, and finishes up with Gilbert and Sullivan style. And for the longest time, until very recently, honestly, I always thought of that type of comedy as pastiche. It turns out it's not. That's not the actual definition of the word, but that's sort of when you think of a style parody where you're not making fun of a specific song per se or its specific lyrics, but you're just sort of taking a particular style or format and you're playing with it either to make fun of the format or to make fun of something else. And I still think of I still will in my own head think of it as pastiche for lack of a better word. And again, songs like Clementine were some of my original introduction to that type of comedy, which is a lot of what it's essentially what we do is Paul and Storm. Like so much of our repertoire is just sort of using the particular song style that we choose as to at least to some degree a commentary on what we're singing about. We don't do we've never done very much pure song parody, which is, I'm not knocking parody. God knows Weird Al is one of the most talented people that I know, much less songwriters. And I think it is in fact harder to write really good song parodies because you've got to take you've got to make funny happen within a very specific structure.
Yeah.
Which is a really, extremely hard skill. And to know how hard a skill it is, just go and listen to just about any musical song parodies that aren't done by Weird Al. It's just
the math of how he does it.
Yeah.
And to also then make every chorus not the same. That is the huge thing that I have had pointed out to me by musicians like, oh, fuck, you're right. Oh, my God, you're right. And to hit the same rhyme structure and everything else.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even in our own non-parody songs, one of the things we regularly will do is we vary up our choruses just because people are expecting a laugh. And if you're giving them 30 seconds of the same thing they heard a minute ago, you're missing opportunities and you're boring them a little bit. To have to do that, within the even stricter confines of an existing song's structure and even rhyme scheme, no thanks.
No, right. Well, it feels like
leave that to the professionals, as they say.
It feels like you're begging for like a laugh with the same old material, even if it was only a few seconds ago. If it's half a minute ago you played the chorus, if it's the exact same thing, well, why didn't you try? Even if you tried so hard on the rest of it, your brain, the audience's brain is like, no, you didn't try hard enough here, even if they don't realize it.
And not to say that there's not extremely good comedy that can be mined from that kind of thing.
Of course.
We have, to cite ourselves as an example of extremely good comedy. We have a song called You Left Me, which is a country ballad of a man singing lamenting to his ex about how she left him. And the whole first half of the song, the chorus is, I have to remember, it's been so long since we've sung it live. You left me, oh, you up and left me, and nothing feels right anymore. It was your right, babe, I know, when you left me and walked right out the door. And the second half of the song explicates that the narrator of the song, me, was a really terrible, awful person whose wife actually grabbed an axe and chopped me in half vertically. And then when we sing that same chorus again, suddenly all the jokes take new meanings.
Love it.
So that that was a hard one to write.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like, it was very funny when we first started performing it to see the audiences that would get it or not, because it's also a slow song. We actually it's a bit of a cheap ploy, where in introducing the song, we'd often say that we were hesitant to sing the song because not all audiences necessarily. Well, okay, the smart audiences get this song. And then from there we go into it, and that sort of gets them a little more on our side, but it also sets them up to understand that this song is a slow burn, and the first half is not so funny, but just wait for the punchline, which is, it's always a tough ask of an audience that's there to see comedy, like
sure.
to even to preset that you're not going to hear a real joke for maybe 90 seconds or so.
Yeah.
But we enjoy that kind of challenge every once in a while.
I mean, again, it's math. It's all math. That doesn't work without, you give the audience the opportunity to literally put two and two together. And then it's literally about a man being split in two. There's something else there. There's a lot going on there.
It's it's storytelling, story structure. You got to let them know what the structure looks like, so then you can start to subvert it, I guess.
Have you ever covered Tom Lehrer?
Not as Paul and Storm. When I was in junior high, actually, I guess I was in middle school, technically. I was in a church youth group. I wasn't even a member of the church. It was just sort of, the main thing was they put on a big musical every year, and most people joined the youth group just to rehearse and then put on that musical at the end of the year. And then we'd do a variety show, post-musical, where people would do a bunch of different stuff. And I had a friend who was a really good piano player who was also a huge Tom Lehrer fan. And so at a couple of those talent shows, we covered a couple Tom Lehrer songs to varying degrees of success. And I think that was as close as I ever came to sort of covering Tom Lehrer in public. I don't think I've ever even done any like karaoke of his.
That's a weird request for the karaoke MC, though.
It is a little bit. Although the karaoke I would ever frequent probably would have that in the repertoire, but I never bothered to try. Although it would be fun to try and take out the elements and just see. Able to get through it like I used to be able to when I was 9.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah, you did you have it entirely memorized then at one point?
At some point I did. It wasn't like a parlor trick thing that I would do all the time, but at some point I had every word of both of those albums.
So good.
Down.
That's so good. Have you met or spoken with Tom Lehrer?
I never have. I've gotten close. It was always like friend of a friend. We played the Ig Nobel ceremonies some time ago. At this point, probably about 10 years ago. And I got to meet Benoit Mandelbrot at that event. Wow. So that was kind of cool from a theoretical mathematics standpoint. And there was a person or two there who knew Tom Lehrer, and it was in that particular case, it was a matter of at that point, because I believe at that point he would do spring and summer in Massachusetts and then do winter and fall in UC Santa Cruz. And he was on the other side of the country at that point. And then at a certain point, he I believe flat out retired to Northern California. So I have never had that opportunity, nor honestly, if I were to meet him, I'm sure I would make kind of an idiot of myself. As much as I've met my fair share of famous people. I've been very fortunate in my career to, meet people, and through those people meet other people. And I'm generally real good about just sort of maintaining, and it's like, sure, they're just a person, and it's particularly, they would really appreciate it if you not just gush all over them. So I'm generally pretty good at that. But there are a few people, Tom Lehrer being one of them, like he's so steeped, I'm steeped in his work, and it's so intertwined in my DNA and bone marrow at this point. I would have a very difficult time even knowing what to say to him. Yeah. Like, you're intertwined with all of my earliest memories and helped form my being and my career and my entire personality. Yeah. And what are you supposed to say to something like that? Gee, thanks, kid, I guess.
And it's the hard part is it's obviously something he's been told a billion times before. It matters just as much to every person who says it
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. I wouldn't, I haven't even been influenced that hard, that well. And I called him up once, and
Oh, really?
Yeah, his number's in the book. He was very kind. He's like, I don't do interviews. I'm like, oh, fair enough, because that is what I wanted out of the situation.
Gotcha.
But he was kind. He was kind enough. Although
nice.
there is, so J. Keith Van Straten did the podcast a while back, and he interviewed Tom Lehrer when he was down for it. But J. Keith was about 12 at the time.
Oh, wow.
But he has the tape. I have pre-pandemic. I was supposed to pick it up from him. It never happened, so I can digitize it, hoping that happens at some point, because I'll put that as an episode of this podcast.
Yeah,
I want to hear a 12-year-old
great.
interview him. Like, that's the big, like, that's kind of the dream. Like,
Yeah,
a
that's
12-year-old kid gets to talk to him.
Very sort of Judd Apatow, early Judd Apatow, just walking up to comedy writers and interviewing them. Kind of balls. I like that. I know that the one thing I was told, which I would have taken advantage of at the time if I'd ever had the opportunity, was that the way to not annoy him and get him interested in a conversation was to talk about musical theater. Because that was really like what he enjoyed talking. I mean, he enjoyed math just fine, but like it was a strong influence from his childhood, and that says, it shows up a lot in the way he writes songs as well. His songs tell great stories, and they're smart, and they're so well structured, and they have a lot of the same elements that really good musical theater writing does. But boy, would I have loved to tried to exploit that opportunity. Given the chance, but alas, I'm not going to bug him at this point because he's 94, and what the hell does he need to hear from me from?
Right. And he did just release all of his lyrics on his website.
To public domain, yeah.
So great, so good.
What a great guy.
Yeah. He's a nice dude. He seems. So we've gotten your favorite songs off of here. Did this lead? Where did this naturally lead down the line? Like, what's the next kind of comedy you picked up if you bought albums? I mean, it's a good time.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. When it came time to buy albums, again, I was a child of the 70s. So I went down a lot of probably the expected routes of heard some Carlin albums. Bought, I was so dead in the wheelhouse for Steve Martin at the time, which is not to say he strictly appeals to 12-year-old boys.
Sure.
But wow, we're 12-year-old boys into Steve Martin back in that day. Some comedians who it is probably problematic at this point to say, but at the time had extremely popular albums and specials that were well liked in their day. I was a late, my comedy interests were fairly mundane's not the right word, but or mainstream, I guess. Not that I was averse to anything avant-garde or alt. Like, I also had the standard white male nerd upbringing of really enjoying Monty Python on PBS when that would show, and things like that. When I hit college, Kids in the Hall, I loved Kids in the Hall. I enjoyed Saturday Night Live just fine, but I wasn't like a fervent acolyte, shall we say? And I was too, at the time that was pre, UCB or anything like that, where it was remotely a realistic dream for a kid from suburban Philadelphia to like, oh, I can go be a sketch comedian somewhere. Not that that's necessarily the path I would have followed anyway, but
sure.
That was as far as my what seemed realistic to me was just to be a fan of this stuff. I'm trying to think of what other comedy I would fall into at that point. There was all the usual music comedy wise, obviously Weird Al, and the various people we've mentioned. But there was a pretty big dearth of musical comedy during that time, other than the stuff you would hear on the various morning zoo shows, or if you had it, Dr. Demento.
Yeah.
But I had some exposure to that sort of stuff through
Wait,
that.
in Philly, what was the morning zoo? Which channel would it have been?
There was WMMR.
There's the one. That's
John DeBella in the morning.
Yep. Now, I'm from upstate New York, but for some reason my parents had this WMMR record on tape.
Yep. Yeah, they had a couple.
Stuff.
Yeah, they did have a couple back in the early 80s, I guess. Back when that used to be a thing.
Re-listening to, I haven't really re-listened to it, but there's no way it's good. There's no way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very, very of its time.
Uh-huh.
And cocaine's a hell of a drug, and I think most of FM radio, particularly most of FM morning radio shows, kind of ran on cocaine. I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no.
Not to specifically disparage, I have no idea if John DeBella and his team were involved with any of that. I just sort of am going off of the evidence I can see in hindsight of most morning radio shows.
Well, just based on having that record, I have wanted to interview him just based on the fact that is one of the first things I ever heard, and maybe I'll ask him.
Yeah,
John, how much coke?
Yeah, just how much of it was floating around.
Just give me a rough idea.
I think most radio stations were actually built, like instead of on rebar and drywall, I think it was cocaine packets holding up the walls.
I think you're right. So I would like you to take this album, An Evening Wasted with Tom Lehrer.
Okay.
And I would like you to recommend it to people if they, let's say, don't know who the hell Tom Lehrer is. Maybe they're young listening to this.
Oh, wow. I've got to give you an elevator pitch on Tom Lehrer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tom Lehrer is an extremely smart comedy singer-songwriter who writes about political and social issues of the day from the mid-50s through the mid-60s, and also just really funny shit. Yep. He's a extremely talented performer, and his work has influenced every funny musician you know or have ever heard of.
50 songs and out, man. That's a hell of a thing, right?
I mean, we didn't even talk about the songs that he wrote for the Electric Company.
Which are those? Because I don't think I know any of these.
He wrote a song called L.Y., a song called Silent E, one's called N''T. I think he wrote a total of 10, and I don't remember all of them. Those were three of the best ones, and they were just these songs that would usually have some sort of animated video accompanying them, teaching some sort of basic punctuation or grammar lesson, and they were just good songs. Like, I have my entire life, even when I was small, I've always had a horror for poorly written, condescending children's music that just don't give children any credit to being able to get it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And his songs, they're just they're simple, they're funny, without being silly or goofy for silliness and goofiness' sake, and they're really charming.
Yeah.
And they're catchy. So I absolutely, you can find them, on iTunes or anywhere where you find Tom Lehrer music. You can look them up. And again, that the Electric Company was one of the shows that I watched back in the day. There was a block for when you were a kid, depending on what specific age you were. In the afternoon, there was Electric Company, Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street. In mornings, there was Captain Kangaroo, and you only had a few channels to choose from, and on PBS it was Sesame Street, Electric Company, and Mr. Rogers. And Electric Company was a little hipper. It had Morgan Freeman got his start as a character named Easy Reader on the Electric Company, and Cheetah Rivera was on it, and it was just it's very, very of its time, but it was interesting and captivating and entertaining, and not just sort of an assault of cloying, something that lazy old people figured kids would like because it's loud and bright.
If people want to hear more about Electric Company, I'd just say go listen to our Paul Dooley episode. Who created that show? Yeah.
Oh, that's right. See,
it's something that people don't talk about, and the credits are wonky on IMDb, but everything he talks like, no, that's my show. I'm like, holy shit, okay.
That's so great, and that's so scans. God love Paul Dooley.
He's a fucking
American
brilliant
treasure.
Can I tell you something? This is one thing that we talked about, and he brought up, and it's real. It's obviously real, but okay, so do you know about the First Family record? Is that an album your parents had? Okay.
We didn't have it.
You didn't have it, but you know what it is. Okay. Yeah. So long story short, anybody who doesn't know, listen to the several episodes I've done talking about it, but including Von Meter's widow. But he did a JFK record too, like a lot of people did. I have There was a glut of them. I think I have a dozen
Sure.
of them that people, or no, 6 or 7. And he did one too, but it never got released. The tapes are out there somewhere probably, and I'm trying to scramble to get them because I want that out there. It could be terrible. Who knows? And, he'd be the first to admit it. But he's also in a Muhammad Ali comedy album. If anybody gives that a listen, I think it's called The Greatest.
As in
Muhammad Ali
somebody doing, or Muhammad Ali released this album?
Muhammad Ali released a comedy album. I think Tony Thaxton talked about it on his podcast, Weird Albums.
That would scan, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul Dooley's in there, uncredited, but he's like, yeah, I did this album with Muhammad Ali. And I was like,
he
what
was
the fuck?
Everywhere, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's a Paul Dooley bit to tie it in with myself. Of course, speaking of musical comedy, Spinal Tap and Mighty Wind and Waiting for Guffman are all, of course, beautifully genius movies. Paul Dooley is, of course, in A Mighty Wind. What is the name of the group? The New Main Street
Singers.
Where he is the only remaining original member of the New Main Street Singers, and they never call attention to this fact, and I don't remember exactly when I noticed it. It may have been when I read an interview with Paul Dooley about it. I like to think I'm a little more perceptive, and I saw it before then, but Paul Dooley, when they perform in that movie, whenever they perform, he's holding a guitar that he never plays. And then at the end of each song, he reaches over and fiddles with the tuning. Now, cut to 2004, 2005. The a cappella group that Storm and I were in, Da Vinci's Notebook, stopped performing.
Okay.
And we decided to go out as a duo and do our own, write our own new stuff and go out as a performing duo. Storm played guitar, and I didn't really. I play some keyboard, but I didn't generally have an instrument to bring out and play live on stage. When we were an a cappella group, we always had microphones in our hands because we weren't on stands. We just walk around a bunch. So I had a microphone in my hand at all times. Very early in the Paul and Storm career, I realized I felt really, really weird because Storm was rooted to because he had a guitar, he was rooted to a microphone on a stand. So I would stand next to him with a mic on a stand because it'd be really weird for me to wander around. But I had no idea what to do with my hands. My solution for the first year of Paul and Storm was to also hold a guitar that I never played and would occasionally between songs fiddle with the tuning in honor, direct homage to Paul Dooley from Mighty Wind.
So fucking good. Does he know this?
I've never met him, and I'm sure he is not aware of our existence, much less.
I don't care. I'm going to tell him
of that thing. That would be please do say there's a comedy music duo, and one guy absolutely
he'll appreciate
in
it.
direct homage to you did that, and it was strictly for me to just feel less uncomfortable on stage. It was a place for me to put my hands.
That is a beautiful bit. That is very good. Son of a bitch. That's funny. I love that movie, by the way. I need to. That is a movie whose soundtrack I do not own on vinyl, and I really want it so that I can talk about it on this show. Not that I have to own it on vinyl, but I love it. It's
if you're gonna own it, you should own it on vinyl. One of my great regrets in life is to have missed. They did like a 3-show tour when that movie came out. They performed live in like 3 places. One of them was in D.C. where I lived at the time, and I was out of town the night they were performing. And to have seen a concert by all those groups live.
They did it at the Getty here, and I was poor as fuck. And I was just like, I can't justify it. I can't do it.
They played the 9:30 in DC, and I could have gone.
Damn it.
I didn't. And to this day, I'm like, oh, that's the one of the ones that got away.
Do you have anything you would like to promote?
You can find Paul and Storm on the various socials media at Paul and Storm. All of our music is available and all the usual places where you can download things. We also have a Bandcamp page where you can download all of our various projects, including a few things that weren't released anywhere else, such as the aforementioned. We did 2 Christmas-themed projects. One was called It Might Be Christmas, which was a series of original Christmas songs done in the style of They Might Be Giants. Another one was the 25 Days of Newman, which was 25 different Christmas movie-themed songs done in the style of Randy Newman, which is all based on a bit that we did. We haven't done it in a long time, but one of our original bits was going back to the topic of doing imitations, one of the series of musical imitations we would do was Randy Newman's theme to X movie. Mm-hmm. And the X movie being a movie he did not write the theme song to, like Lord of the Rings or Jesus Christ Superstar or things like that. And we did 25, and the bit of it was always the same exact joke structure, kind of short people's and it always, whoever it was about was like, "Go hobbits, go, you my friend," and they were always your friend, and it was always "go something go." And so we did a project where it was 24 different songs, all with that same exact structure. Everything from The Godfather to Miracle Worker. And then the 25th song is a straight up, not a comedy song, but a straight up Randy Newman style theme song to It's a Wonderful Life that is extremely true to Randy Newman's style, and just maybe the blackest song we've ever written, and also one of my favorite things we have ever done. Anyway, you can find, among many other projects and all of our albums, you can find those at paulandstorm.bandcamp.com. And that'll do it.
That's delightful. I very much appreciate you doing the show.
It's a pleasure being here. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a while, but I'm so unreliable.
Same.
But I'm very glad to have come and done it. I'm glad to have finally joined the Pantheon.
I had to cancel a lot of episodes this week because my back hurt.
Oh, owie.
Yep. Old. That's what happens with old.
I hear that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, just listen to some of my other podcasts. Dispatches from Fort Awesome, a podcast about the TV show News Radio. Listen to Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour. The Professional Blur. 2 of those podcasts are going away. Not Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour, or this one for now, probably.
Fingers crossed.
At least for a month.
Yeah, please don't go away before you release this episode.
What a dick move. Sorry, guys.
I'm the one that killed it. Sorry.
And thank you all for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs, and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years. StolenDress Entertainment.
Hey, it's my turn. Ah!